Chapter 10 of Billie Bradley at Treasure Cove by Janet D. Wheeler. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Treasure Cove. Oh! The exclamation was so eloquent that Billie Bradley had no need of further words. The old seaman turned an understanding face toward her. "I know how you're feeling," he said. "I felt the same way, only maybe a little more so." "Did the mutineer explain about the map?" Billie asked, finding her voice. Ben Halcombe nodded. "He told me about it, gasping, sort of, and me holding his head. We came across from China on the Marlin," he told me in his rasping voice. "There was a mutiny aboard, and the captain and the first and second mate was killed," he said. "What for was there mutiny?" I asked. He laughed, the ghastliest sound I ever heard, coming as it did from a dying man. "There was gold aboard," he said, gasping like, "and rare silks and jewel chests carved out of ivory. A king's ransom it was. When there was trouble between the captain and the crew, why, the captain got what was coming to him." "And the mates?" I asked. "And the mates," he repeated, rasping his ghastly laugh. He was pretty weak again. It was a wonder to me that the breath stayed so long in his body, and I had to brace him up with another hooker before he could go on. "After a while," said he, his voice sounding like the echo of what it once was, "the men began fighting among themselves. There wasn't but 3 of us left when we put into Treasure Cove." Here he began to cough again, and I thought his last minute had come. You can imagine, he turned to Billie, his leathery face crinkling into myriad wrinkles, that by this time I was pretty anxious to hear the finish of what he had begun to say. "Yes," said Billie softly, "I can imagine just how anxious you were." "He got over his fit of coughing after a while," continued the old fellow. "Then he told me about the burying of the treasure on the island, and how he and the other 2 mutineers that was left quarreled over what share each was to have in it. 'We fought,' said he, sort of struggling with his voice. 'First 2 of us together, and then all 3. We'd fight till we couldn't fight no more. Then we'd drop down and rest a while, then up and at it again. 2 of 'em,' said he, his voice getting weaker and weaker, 'fell over the cliff into the sea. I knew that I was done for if I stayed where I was, so I crawled to the skiff,' said he, 'and I managed after a while to get to the mainland. I dragged myself,' he added, coughing and sputtering, 'up onto the beach, and there, matey, you found me.' Here he got a long coughing spell, which I thought would be the end of him, sure. But he rallied once more, and held out the piece of crumpled paper to me. 'This'll pay for the drinks, matey,' said he, grinning a ghastly sort of grin. 'Go find the treasure, and may it bring you better luck than it's done me.' With that his head hung sort of heavy on my arm, and I knew he was dead." A long silence fell between the 2, the old man and the young girl. Billie had read many adventure tales, and what spirited boy or girl has not? And many of them had dealt with the discovery of treasure. But these tales, thrilling as they were only tales. This story of Ben Halcombe's rang with truth. Billie was impressed and thrilled by its possibilities. "Does no one know of the treasure but yourself?" she asked softly. "If the story of the mutineer was true, lass, no one else knows," he answered, "and I ain't got no reason to doubt it. After all, he didn't have to tell me, not a word." "I wonder why he did," mused Billie. Ben Halcombe's bronze face cracked into a grim smile. "For the reason he said, to pay me for the drinks. He was a scamp and a scoundrel, but I couldn't help but have a sneaking fondness for him. He was a game one, that mutineer." Billie was silent for a moment, busy with her whirling, excited thoughts. Presently she looked up at Ben Halcombe. "How long ago did all this happen?" she asked. "Fortnight or thereabouts," the old man answered. Were you on your way to Miss Halcombe to ask her to help you dig up the treasure when we came across you in the woods?" she questioned. "When you saved my life in the woods, you mean," corrected the old fellow gratefully. "I don't forget that. In fact," he lowered his voice and motioned Billie to come closer to him, "I'm so grateful that if it's ever my luck to find this treasure, I'd be more than willing to split with you and your friends." The offer took Billie's breath away. Visions of an immense fortune floated before her dazzled eyes. She shook her head as though to clear it of such fantasies. "I can't quite understand it yet," she said. "Why you didn't go after the treasure yourself at once? Why you came to Miss Halcombe for help?" "I haven't any money," said the old chap simply, "and it's going to take a little to finance the search. I was hoping," his discouraged sigh went straight to Billie's heart, "that Pauline could be led to see it my way and would lend me some money." "I'd have paid it back," he said with a flash of spirit. "I'd have paid back every cent, with interest." "Wouldn't she listen to you at all?" insisted Billie. Ben shook his head sadly. "She says I'm only a foolish old man," he confessed. "She says that dying mutineer was like as not playing a joke on me. Maybe she's right, only men don't usually play jokes with his dying breath. But Pauline only says bosh and tells me to get such ridiculous ideas out of my head. If I'm set on making a fool of myself, she says, leastways she ain't going to help me do it." Billie heard the rustle of footsteps behind her and turned quickly. Miss Halcombe herself was coming toward them across the lawn. "Shh!" she said. "Someone is coming." For just a moment she let her hand rest on the old gnarled hand of the seaman. "Don't tell anyone what you've told me," she begged in a low tone. "It's just possible we may be able to help you. Goodbye." She was off, her book under her arm, looking very girlish and demure as Miss Pauline reached the old man's side. She looked back over her shoulder and saw that the teacher was regarding her with a stern, inquiring look. "Go on, glare at me," said Billie Bradley under her breath. "I've got something that you haven't, Miss Pauline Halcombe, and that's imagination." "Imagination," she added with a chuckle, "may mean a lot of money to me yet, to say nothing of fun and adventure." Billie was filled with great excitement. Her mind was as restless as her feet. She paced up and down the lawn before Three Towers Hall, thinking of all that Ben Halcombe had told her, wondering how much of that fantastic tale was true. After a while she paused in her feverish pacing up and down to take stock of herself and of the facts as she knew them. Imagination is a good thing, but I mustn't let it run away with me. Still, Ben Halcombe's story sounded like the truth, and if it should be... Here her musings were interrupted by a sharp hail from the hall. She turned and went slowly toward the door. End of chapter 10.